In the cold silence beneath Antarctica, a secret lab buzzed with energy. Bright blue lights flashed along the walls. Machines hummed. A group of scientists stood around a tall metal gate, its center empty, waiting. Dr. Elena Reyes checked her watch. Her fingers trembled, not from the cold but from nerves. This was the moment the world would change forever. "Begin the countdown," she said calmly. 3, 2, 1. A voice called out. The gate glowed. A sudden pulse of white light shot through the room. Everyone shielded their eyes. Then, silence. The gate stood still. In the center, a small drone hovered, beeping. It had traveled 10 minutes, into the past and returned. The room exploded with cheers. The test worked. But then, the lights flickered, and the drone dropped to the floor, sparking. Reyes rushed over. The drone was damaged. Burnt metal, deep scratches, wires torn apart. "Play the footage," she ordered. The screen lit up. The drone's camera showed it moving through a glowing tunnel of blue light. Then, a shadow. Something dark moved past the lens. The video went static. "Was that someone else?" whispered one of the scientists. "No one else was in the time stream," said Reyes. "Or at least no one should be." But the video clearly showed something, a shape. Watching. From that moment, everything changed. 2 weeks later, the team prepared for a human jump. The world's first time traveler, Colonel James Briggs, ex-soldier, calm under pressure. Chosen for one reason, he wasn't afraid of the unknown. Briggs stood in front of the gate in a full-body suit. Sensors, cameras, and a heartbeat monitor covered him. "You know the mission," said Reyes through the speaker. 5 minutes into the past. Observe. Return." Briggs gave a thumbs up. "Let's make history." The countdown began. The gate flashed. Light swallowed Briggs. He vanished. 5 minutes passed. 6, 7. "Where is he?" someone asked, panic rising. Then the gate lit up again. Briggs stumbled out, alive, gasping for air. But something was wrong. His eyes were wide like he had seen a ghost. He dropped to his knees, whispering, "It's not just us, it's not just us." Reyes ran to him. "Colonel, what happened?" "I landed in the past. It looked normal, but I saw something standing. In the shadows, it looked at me. Then it disappeared." "Disappeared how?" Reyes asked. Briggs shook his head. "It glitched, like a broken video." That night the lab was quiet. Most of the team had gone home. Only Reyes stayed behind, staring at the video footage from Briggs' suit. She paused. The feed. There. In the background. A tall shape. No eyes. No mouth. But it knew it was being watched. Suddenly the screen flickered. Words appeared. "Stop jumping." Reyes froze. The message hadn't come from their system. It came from somewhere else. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. Computers turned on by themselves. Lab notes were changed, written in Reyes's handwriting, but she didn't write them. One scientist swore he saw a copy of himself walking down the hall and then vanish. "We broke something," Reyes said during a meeting. "Time is not just a line, it's alive. And now, it's watching us." Most of the team wanted to shut everything down, but the funding came from powerful people. The world's leaders wanted answers. They wanted control over time, and they weren't going to stop now. Reyes reviewed Briggs's final scan reports. Something had followed him back. Not a person. Not a machine, a presence, whatever it was. It now existed in their time. One night Reyes woke up in her room, heart pounding. Her walls were covered in writing, hundreds of words scratched into the paint. One sentence repeated over and over, "You." "Open the door." In the deepest part of the lab, hidden far below ground, the gate pulsed again, on its own. No one activated it. And in the dark, something stepped through. It left no footprints, no heat, no sound, but it had arrived, and time would never be the same again. The gate was quiet. Too quiet. It hadn't been activated in 3 days, but Reyes knew something was wrong. She stood in front of the machine alone in the dark lab. She checked the logs again. There it was. Activity detected. 02:43 a.m. Unauthorized time signal. She had been asleep at that time. So had everyone else. Who jumped? She whispered. But the question wasn't who. It was what. Colonel Briggs sat in the medical bay staring at a wall. His pulse was normal, but he hadn't spoken since he came back from the past. The nurse said he only whispered one sentence in his sleep. "It knows my name." Reyes watched the recordings again. In one frame, the strange shadow could be seen, standing behind Briggs, and only for a second. But now it was clearer. Its body was made of lines, glitches, like broken code trying to shape itself into something alive. Reyes grabbed her recorder. Log entry 27. "I think time is alive." Or, "Something lives inside it. Something that saw us the moment we jumped. I believe we woke it up." She stopped recording. Her hands were shaking. That evening, Reyes received a file she didn't recognize. No name. No sender. She opened it. A video began to play. It was her, Reyes, in the same lab. But everything around her was destroyed. Smoke, fire, blood on the floor. Her future self looked straight into the camera and said one thing: "You were warned." Then, static. The next day, the world began to shift. Not in a loud, explosive way, but quiet. Cruel. People began remembering things that never happened. A scientist named Tom suddenly remembered being married. But he had never met the woman he described. A child drew pictures of her other mommy who lived in the sky and spoke backwards. And in the cafeteria, Reyes watched a coffee mug lift off the table and float in the air for 3 seconds. Then, shatter on the floor. "Time is breaking," she whispered. "The government sent agents, men in black suits, cold eyes, no names." "We need another jump," one of them said. Reyes refused. "We barely made it out last time." "Orders," he said. "You're not in charge anymore." They brought in a new jumper, a young man named Ian Solis, smart, brave, trained. But Reyes could see it in his eyes. He had no idea what he was walking into. The countdown started. Reyes watched from the glass room above. 10 seconds, said the tech. "Ready for time insertion." Ian looked back at her. He gave a small nod, then turned to face the gate. The machine roared to life. But something went wrong. The lights turned red. The gate's core flashed white hot. Then, a scream. Everyone heard it. But not from Ian. It came from the gate itself, like something was screaming from inside the time stream. "Ian, abort, abort," Reyes shouted. But it was too late. Ian was gone. And the machine stopped, completely dead, like something inside had eaten its energy. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. No return signal. Everyone was silent. Suddenly the gate sparked, then burst open like a door kicked from the other side. Ian fell through, body shaking, face pale. But it wasn't him anymore. His eyes were black. His voice echoed like it came from a cave. "You kept jumping," he said. "Now time jumps back." And then he vanished. Right in front of them. Gone. No trace. Later that night, Reyes stood alone at the gate. She found something strange carved into the steel base. A symbol, perfectly cut, not by any tool. It was the same shape that had appeared in her dream the night before. She reached out to touch it. And in that instant, she saw every version of herself, all screaming, one burned, one frozen in ice. One was machine, and one was not human at all. She stumbled back, gasping for air. On the screen, a message appeared. "You lost control." The next morning, the stars looked different. One of them had changed position, but stars don't move overnight. Reyes realized something terrifying. The timeline had already shifted and no one noticed except her. A week passed, but something was wrong with time. Every morning the sun rose 1 minute earlier. Clocks all around the world started showing different times, even atomic clocks. People began waking up with memories from other lives. Some remembered wars that never happened. Others cried over family members who didn't exist. Not in this timeline. Dr. Elena Reyes knew what it meant. Time wasn't just broken. It was being rewritten. The gate had been sealed after Ian vanished, but that didn't stop the signals. Each night, the lab's main computer turned on by itself. One message kept appearing. You took the first step. Now see the end. Reyes stayed up 3 nights in a row studying the signals. They weren't random. They were coordinates to a location far away, in Earth's orbit. She contacted the International Space Station. They confirmed it. Something strange was floating. Near Earth, an object that wasn't there before. Black metallic, silent, no heat, no signal. But it was watching. And every 12 hours it rotated to face Earth, exactly where Reyes was. Back at the lab, Colonel Briggs finally spoke again. He pointed at the wall and said, "It's here." "What is?" Reyes asked. He looked at her with shaking hands. "The future. It's watching us. It wants to see how we react." She followed his gaze. There was a mirror on the wall, but her reflection didn't move. It just smiled. The next day, Reyes held a secret meeting with her closest team members. "We need to jump forward," she said. "To the future? Yes. If it's watching us, we need to look back." They argued. "It's too dangerous. What if we don't return? What if we bring something back again?" But in the end, they agreed. Reyes would go. The gate was powered back on. This time it hummed differently, like it was alive now. Her jump was set, 100 years into the future. Just 5 minutes, then return. The countdown began. Reyes held her breath. The light swallowed her whole. When she opened her eyes, she saw nothing, just silence. The world was gray, cold, still, no wind, no birds, no machines. She stood on a rooftop. What used to be New York City, now covered in ash and broken towers. Everything was dead. Not destroyed, just forgotten. She walked through the empty streets. Signs were in strange languages she couldn't read. She saw human skeletons, and beside them machines that had fused with their bones. A voice called out behind her. "Reyes?" She turned quickly. A man stood there, old, wearing advanced armor. He looked human, but his eyes glowed blue. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm from the last timeline that survived." Then he pointed to the sky, and Reyes saw it. Thousands of black ships floating above Earth, watching, waiting. "They're not aliens," he said. "They're us, future versions. From timelines that failed." She felt dizzy. "Why are they here?" "To make sure no one else plays with time again." "They're punishing us?" He shook his head. "No, they're learning. Every time we change time, they study the results. You are the latest test." Reyes stepped back. That can't be true." He looked at her sadly. "Time isn't broken. It's become a battlefield, and you're standing on the front line." Then he handed her a device, a small cube. "This will get you home, but when you go back, they'll know." "Who?" He looked up at the ships. "Them." Reyes activated the cube. The world spun. Light twisted. When she returned to the lab, the others ran to her. "What did you see?" "They asked." She fell to the floor, clutching the cube. She looked at Briggs and whispered, "The future already happened." That night, every screen in the lab turned on. A new message appeared. It didn't blink. It didn't move. It just stared. A single sentence burned into the monitors. "Hello, past." It started at 3:13 a.m. A child vanished from her bed in Tokyo. 3. Minutes later, she reappeared in Cairo, but she was 20 years older, and she remembered everything. "I fought in the Time Wars," she said, "and you lost." Dr. Elena Reyes sat in the lab staring at the cube the man from the future gave her. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, a warning. Colonel Briggs entered the room. "Something's happening," he said. "More time breaches. All over the planet." Reyes turned to him, eyes wide. "It's begun, hasn't it?" He nodded. "The war has started. In Moscow, security cameras recorded people walking out of walls. They wore strange armor. Their skin glitched, flickering between human and machine. In Australia, a man was pulled into the sky by an invisible force, vanished, and in New York, two versions of the same woman fought each other in the street, until one of them turned to dust. The timeline was collapsing. Reyes held an emergency briefing. The lab was now under full lockdown. Governments were panicking. Military units were trying to capture what they called time anomalies. But there were too many. "They're not invaders," Reyes told the team. "They're echoes, pieces of futures we created. And they're fighting for control," Briggs added. One scientist, Tom, looked terrified. "How do we fight something from the future?" Reyes paused. "We don't." Later that night, Reyes activated the cube again. She wasn't trying to travel, just listen, and it spoke. In 1,000 voices, all versions of her, all screaming, "You made us. You left us. You failed us." The next day, the gate activated by itself again. No one was near it. From the portal, a body fell through, but it was still alive. A human soldier, half covered in a silver shell. He coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "I came from timeline 73D. He whispered. "Don't trust the ones who call themselves timekeepers. They aren't human anymore." Before he died, he handed Reyes a chip. It showed a map, Earth as it was in the year 39,000, but it wasn't Earth anymore. It was a machine, built from failed timelines, powered by broken moments, a world that fed on time. Colonel Briggs formed a strike team. He didn't wait for orders. He knew waiting would get them all killed. He picked people who had been touched by time, those who remembered things that never happened. They were time-resistant, Reyes said, but even they weren't ready for what came next. The team jumped forward to 10 years in the future, only for 5 minutes. But what they found was chaos. Humanity lived underground. The surface was owned by creatures made of broken seconds and dying minutes. Time predators. They didn't kill the body. They erased it from history. One soldier screamed as his arm vanished, followed by his family photos, followed by his voice, until he never existed. Back in the present, Reyes worked on building a device. The time lock. A machine that would freeze their current moment, keep their timeline safe from future intrusions. But it needed something more. A power source from the original time core. The very first machine. The one buried in Earth's ancient past. Suddenly, an alarm blared. An unknown object entered the solar system. It wasn't a ship. It was a moment. A chunk of pure time, shaped like a cube, falling toward Earth. Inside it were them, the timekeepers. Tall, shining, human-shaped but wrong. No mouths, no eyes, only glowing clocks on their chests, and one of them spoke through every screen on Earth. "You broke the stream. You crossed the law. Now time belongs to us," Reyes whispered. "We have to go back to the beginning before the first jump." Briggs stood beside her, loading his weapon. "Then let's rewrite the past, before the future erases us all." The Earth was shaking, but not from earthquakes, from time itself. Across the world, reality blinked. Buildings that once stood for centuries suddenly vanished. Some people woke up speaking languages that had never existed. Others didn't wake up at all. They had simply been erased. Dr. Elena Reyes knew this wasn't random. The timekeepers were hunting the original moment, the first spark, the core. Deep under a pyramid in Egypt, Sensors picked up a strange signal. It pulsed like a heartbeat, matching the rhythm of Reyes's time cube. She stared at the monitor, stunned. "This shouldn't be possible," she whispered. "It's human tech, buried 12,000 years ago." Colonel Briggs leaned over. "How could humans build a time machine before we were even born?" "They didn't," Reyes said. "We did. We sent it back, and now it's waiting." A mission was launched. 5 people, 1 ancient site, 1 chance to find the core and stop the collapse. As their ship descended into the Egyptian sands, the sky above glitched, turning red for a moment. The stars twisted, then snapped back. Even space was breaking. They entered the pyramid under cover of night, but what they found inside was not stone. It was metal, old, rusted, alien, and marked with human writing. Every step down showed them walls covered in timelines, paintings of wars, machines, deaths, and victories that hadn't happened yet. Reyes placed her hand on a panel. It lit up. The entire room shook. A hidden door slid open. Inside they saw it, a silver machine, floating, spinning slowly, alive. The time core. Briggs stepped forward, but something else moved with them. A whisper echoed through the chamber. "You came back." The shadows twisted. A figure stepped out, human but not. It was Reyes, an older version, one who had stayed behind thousands of years ago, trapped by time. "You made the same mistake I did," the older Reyes said. "You thought you could fix time. But it doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to survive." Reyes was frozen. "Is this really me?" The older one smiled, eyes tired. "One version of you, the one who chose to stay and become the lock." The core began to hum. It responded to their presence, but so did something else. The timekeepers arrived. They stepped into the chamber, silent and glowing. One raised its hand, and the walls of time bent inward. "You were never meant to find this," it said in a voice made of 1,000 ticking clocks. "This is ours now." Briggs fired. The bullet passed through the timekeeper and came out the Yahweh, other side older. Rusted, cracked, the timekeeper didn't flinch. "They cannot be killed with bullets," said the older Reyes. "Only with memory." Reyes stepped toward the core. She saw a slot, a perfect fit for the cube. "I think I know what to do," she said. "If you activate it," said the older Reyes, "you'll lock this timeline forever. They won't be able to reach it again. But everything will change. You'll never go back to your old life, maybe. You'll never go back at all." Reyes looked at Briggs. He nodded. "Do it. We came to protect the past, even if we don't get to live in it." She placed the cube into the core. Light exploded in every direction. The timekeepers screamed, a horrible, high-pitched sound as their bodies began to crack like glass. The core spun faster and faster until it collapsed into a single point. And then, silence. Everything stopped. When Reyes opened her eyes, she was alone. The pyramid was gone. No machines, no soldiers, no time. Glitches, just desert. Empty sky. Stillness. She checked her communicator. No signal, no response, nothing, but her hands were still glowing faintly. She looked into the horizon and saw a small, distant city. Primitive fires, clay houses, simple tools. A child looked at her, confused but unafraid. Reyes smiled. She had gone too far back. She was now the beginning. Far above the earth, in deep space, a black cube floated. One last timekeeper watched from the shadows. It spoke in a quiet, cold voice. "Reset complete. Watching continues." Time did not flow anymore. It bled. Across the galaxy, entire civilizations vanished from history. Not destroyed, just undone. Stars pulsed backward. Moons cracked like glass. And on Earth, people began to split. A woman walked through a marketplace in London, and froze. A copy of her walked by. Same face, same clothes, but with different memories. She blinked, and now she was both. And neither. Reality was shattering. In the underground lab, Colonel Briggs opened his eyes. He was alone. The walls were familiar, but something was off. Reyes was standing beside him, but she had died. "I watched you die in Egypt," he said. Reyes stared back. "No, you died in orbit." Then another version of her entered the room. "No," said the second Reyes. "We both died in timeline 4X. Then a third walked in, scarred with glowing eyes. She didn't speak. The air cracked. Briggs fell to his knees. His arms shifted, one young, one aged. Memories poured into his head, memories from lives he never lived. He saw himself as a war criminal, as a father, as a machine, as something not human at all. And through it all, one whisper echoed. The core was never enough. Somewhere above Earth, in the broken folds of space-time, the last surviving timekeeper watched. It stood on a bridge made of frozen light. All around it, dead timelines twisted in silent screams. It had failed to contain humanity. Now it watched the final collapse. And it smiled. Meanwhile, the original Reyes, the one locked in the past, walked through ancient Earth. But things were wrong. Plants grew in reverse. Animals moved in loops. The sky blinked. Time was eating itself from both ends. She climbed the old pyramid ruins and activated her last remaining device. A map appeared, made of stars, lines, and thousands of Reyes' own timelines. They were colliding. Only one could survive, she whispered. Then I have to end the rest. Back in the lab, multiple versions of the same team fought each other. Some wanted to build a new core. Others wanted to destroy time itself. One version of Briggs had joined the timekeepers. He believed they were right. Humanity was the mistake, he growled. We were never supposed to control time. You're not me, said the real Briggs. You're just a broken reflection. Then he shot him. The body vanished mid-fall. The timeline had rejected it. Across the earth, reality storms tore through cities. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower flickered between ancient stone and metal. In Beijing, the sky turned into water. In Rio, people turned into statues, then sand. Each moment was a battle for survival between what happened, what could have happened, and what should never be. Reyes finally located the last convergence point, a place outside time, where all timelines would meet for one final choice. She activated her jump. But this was no longer travel. It was war. She landed in a space that had no floor, no sky, just mirrors floating in darkness. Each mirror showed a version of her. Thousands, some weeping, some laughing, some begging her to stop. One was entirely made of fire. Another was fused to a timekeeper. A voice echoed from all directions. Only one of you can remain. A countdown began. Seconds. 58. She screamed, "No, there has to be another way." The mirrors began to shatter. Each time one broke, she felt pain, like a memory was being ripped from her soul. She saw her parents, then forgot them. She saw Briggs, then forgot him too. The last mirror remained. It showed her, but calm, silent, still, and holding a child. "Who are you?" Reyes asked. The calm version stepped forward. "I'm the one who chose peace," she said. "Not control, not war, just to stop." She handed Reyes a sphere, the reset key. "You want me to erase everything?" "Not everything, just the fight. Let time heal." The countdown hit 0. Reyes closed her eyes and crushed the sphere. White light burst across the dark void. When she opened her eyes, she was back on Earth. The sky was blue. The timeline was stable. No more glitches. No more timekeepers. No more versions of her. Just peace. She looked at her hands. No glow. No scars. Just normal. She whispered, Did we win? But there was no answer. Only the wind. And silence. Far away, at the edge of the galaxy, in a place outside time, the last timekeeper floated quietly. Its body began to crack, and then it whispered, "Last move on yours." The world was calm. Too calm. No more time storms. No more timelines colliding. No more screams from futures that never happened. Dr. Elena Reyes stood on a quiet beach watching the ocean. Waves rolled in. Birds flew overhead. Children laughed somewhere nearby. It was perfect. But she knew something was wrong. It was too perfect. For the past week, Reyes had searched for any sign of the past timeline, the timekeepers, the core, the other versions of herself. Nothing. It was as if the war had never happened, if time had erased itself and started over. And then, one morning, Reyes woke up to a message burned into the sand at her feet. Final choice awaits. Later that day, she was walking through an abandoned observatory when she saw it. A mirror, old, cracked, covered in dust. But her reflection wasn't her. It was another version. One she hadn't seen before. This version looked at her with sad eyes and said only one word: "Run." The mirror shattered, and the walls around her peeled away like paper. She was no longer in the observatory. She was standing on the edge of reality, a platform floating in black space. Above her, stars blinked in strange colors. Below her, nothing. Just emptiness. Then came the voice. Soft. Familiar. Her voice. But it wasn't just one. It was every version of her speaking together. "You used the reset key," the voices said, "but peace comes with a price." A figure appeared ahead. It looked like a child, glowing, made of time energy. Not human, not machine. Something new. "The balance must be kept," the child said. "You saved one timeline, but that means destroying all the others." Reyes stared, in horror. Every life I lived, every person I met in the other timelines, they must end, the child said. Their moments will fade. Only one stream can remain. Suddenly the sky filled with flashes. Every other version of Earth hovered in the void, each floating like a bubble. One Earth was ruled by machines. Another had no humans at all. A third was still in the middle of the time war. Thousands of versions, each with people fighting to survive, each hoping to win. Reyes fell to her knees. "You want me to kill them all?" she whispered. The child nodded. "You must make the final choice. Only one timeline can be real. The others will collapse into echoes." And then she saw them, every version of herself alive again, standing in the void. Some wore armor, others robes. Some were scarred. Some had no faces. Each stepped forward. Each had their own answer. "Let them go," said one Reyes. "We deserve peace." "No," shouted another. "We fight for every version of humanity. All must live." One of them, burned and broken, limped toward her. "If you choose wrong," she rasped, "you become the next timekeeper." The child held out its hand. In its palm, 2 glowing spheres, one blue, one red. The blue sphere would keep this peaceful timeline alive. The red sphere would restore all the timelines, chaos, war, pain, and hope included. "Choose," said the child. Reyes closed her eyes. She thought of the children she had seen on the beach. She thought of Briggs. She thought of the girl who aged 20 years in a blink. The soldiers from the future, the pyramids, the glitches, the pain. She thought of every human in every version of history who fought for a chance to exist. She opened her eyes and reached out, but she didn't choose the blue. She didn't choose the red. She reached into her coat, pulled out a third sphere, the one no one knew she had kept. A black sphere, the null seed, a backup device made by the first-time engineers, in case time itself became a weapon. She crushed it in her palm, and everything froze. The stars stopped. The child screamed, not in anger, but in fear. The platform broke apart. Timelines didn't collapse. They stopped being separate. They merged. All versions of Earth, all versions of Reyes, all histories, all pain, all joy, all memories. One truth, one stream, humanity, whole again. Reyes woke up. She was standing at the gate. The very first time gate. Day 1. But this time, no countdown, no experiment, no jump, no war. She turned to her team. "Shut it down," she said. Briggs looked confused. "You sure?" "Yes," she said softly. "Time doesn't belong to us, it never did." The machine powered down, forever, and Earth moved on. One timeline, one humanity, all stories united. No more timekeepers, no more echoes. Only one truth. Humans discovered time travel, then chose not to use it, and saved themselves.